Because video games tend to follow a formula, you should be able to recognise where you are during your playthrough. You can make a rough estimate when you reach the halfway point, you're aware when you've reached the last level, and it should be unmistakable when you're about to go head to head with the big bad. However, certain titles give the impression you are moments away from victory despite the fact that you've not even scratched the surface. I'm Sai for WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video games that tricked you into celebrating too soon. Number 10, Ghosts and Goblins. The first experience many gamers had with premature celebration was while playing Ghosts and Goblins. This Capcom platformer may be a classic, but it's still considered one of the most brutal titles ever. Despite the fact that our hero Arthur is decked out in a full suit of armour, it only takes 2 hits to take him out. And so when you meet Arthur's arch-nemesis Astaroth in the final level, you can practically see the finish line. But after you emerge victorious, the game resets. Well, what the heck happened? The first time you witness this injustice, you might be under the impression a glitch sent you back to the start. But after beating Astaroth, the player receives a message that reads, "This room is an illusion and is a trap devised by Satan." To view the true ending of the game, you have to play this merciless title again on hard mode. Considering that Ghosts and Goblins' true ending is just a single sentence with several more grammatical errors and spelling mistakes, it's not really worth it. Number 9, Bayonetta. The Bayonetta franchise centres around an alien/demon hybrid who may hold the key to ending the war between Paradiso and Inferno once and for all. While Bayonetta travels across the globe and beyond, a Lumen sage called Baldur prepares to resurrect Jubilius. Now, because Jubilius is literally God, you don't expect our ass-kicking heroine would have a chance against her. As a result, you naturally assume Baldur will serve as the main villain. So when Bayonetta puts a bullet right between the sage's eyes, his tower collapses, implying your adventure to be over. However, 5 minutes into the ending, Baldur pops up as if nothing happens and resurrects Jubilius, forcing Bayonetta to square off with a literal deity. After enduring a relentless battle with the divine being, our salacious sorceress triumphs, and as the credits roll, the player can't help but breathe an enormous sigh of relief. But then Bayonetta realises Jubilius' corpse is about to collide into the world, which will cause cataclysmic destruction. Only after the titular witch reduces the Almighty's remains to dust can she hang her high heels up for now. Number 8, Mega Man 4. Mega Man's nemesis Dr. Wily wrote the book on celebrating too soon in video games. When you thought you had the deranged Doctor beat in the original Mega Man, his Wily machine pulled out a whole new health bar. After he was seemingly vanquished in Mega Man 2, our robotic hero had to face the real final boss. In Mega Man 3, it felt like the battle would never end since the final boss had 4 freaking phases. So while tangling with the final boss of Mega Man 4, Dr. Cossack, players were expecting the game to try and pull a fast one. And sure enough, Wily appears after you defeats Cossack, revealing he was behind everything, shock and horror. Naturally, you assume the next level will have the Blue Bomber challenge the maniacal scientist once more. But if you thought things were about to wrap up, you were in for a rude awakening. To reach Wily, you had to go through another fortress and battle 10 bosses, and even then, only after you beat Dr. Wily 3 times can you call it a day. Number 7, Days Gone. Days Gone centres around a mercenary called Deacon who's trying to find his missing wife after an apocalyptic event turns most of humanity into zombified creatures called Freakers. A mysterious masked researcher called O'Brien tells Deacon he'll find his wife if he takes part in a secret mission. In the climax, Deacon reunites with his wife, kills the bad guy, everybody hugs it out, yada yada yada. Once the credits roll, many players believe it's all over. But if you get a 100% completion rating and watch the credits fully, you'll receive a radio message from O'Brien mentioning a new mission. After meeting with the researcher, he alerts you that the Freakers are mutating. He then pulls off his mask, revealing he himself is a Freaker. He then drops a vague warning that they are coming before the screen cuts to black. After defeating the final boss, players assumed they had reached the end of the story, but after hearing O'Brien's revelation, it seemed like it might just be the beginning. At least that was the idea. Due to Days Gone's poor reception, the proposed sequel was cancelled, and as such, it turns out this teaser actually was the end. Number 6, Nino Cooney, Wrath of the White Witch. In Nino Cooney, young Oliver is tasked with saving a hidden world from being destroyed by a dark entity called Shader. Although the story makes it clear Shader takes orders from a higher power, you still see him as the main threat. Not only does Shader wish to eliminate all life, he murders Oliver's mother, making our hero's mission more personal. Although there are a few loose ends by the time Shader is out of the picture, things do seem done and dusted during the ending as you watch Oliver celebrate with his allies. But during the ceremony, Dark Jin's master, Cassiopeia, launches a devastating attack on the world, forcing Oliver to continue his mission. After playing for another 6 hours, Oliver will confront Cassiopeia, and after she's thwarted, she apologizes to our hero, promising to help him bring peace to both worlds. But we're still not done. Immediately after that, her minions merge into one super being who serve as the real final boss. Although the way the rug is pulled from under you is clever, it does create a problem. Many players were so certain Shadar and Cassiopeia were the last bosses, they probably used their best items while facing them. And as such, it's likely their reserves have run dry at this stage, making the last adversary astoundingly difficult. Number 5, Portal 2. Portal's arch-villain, the maniacal and body-shaming AI GLaDOS, was so beloved by players, many theorised she would return in the sequel despite being dead. This seemed to be validated while playing Portal 2 when the sinister android is accidentally resurrected. Although it takes around 2 hours to reach GLaDOS's lair, all the signs point to this confrontation being the final showdown. It took less than an hour to get through the original Portal after all, so some players presumed the follow-up wouldn't take much longer. After you rip GLaDOS from her core and swap her with your bumbling robotic sidekick Wheatley, your nemesis is rendered powerless, and because Wheatley, who has been there for you every step of the way, is now governing a super robot body, it looks like everybody's a winner. However, you're not even halfway through. After Wheatley takes control, he becomes corrupt by power. Acknowledging Wheatley's incompetence will lead to the facility's destruction, so you must join forces with your sworn enemy to stop him. Since GLaDOS was the only imposing character at this point, you had every reason to suspect the game was finished once she was disposed of. And because Wheatley is a moron, you never expected he would make a last-minute heel turn in a million years. Number 4, Akami. Akami revolves around Amaterasu, a Shinto god who's renowned for sealing away the dreaded 8-headed serpent Orochi. When Orochi breaks free 1 century later, Amaterasu must seek out power from the celestial gods to vanquish her enemy for good. After the player has reversed the damage Orochi has done to the land, our heroic wolf should be ready to put an end to this devilish dragon's reign of terror. And after a long and arduous battle, you emerge victorious, which should usher in a new age of peace and prosperity. But it's not over. In fact, it's not even close. Because it takes about 10 hours to reach Orochi, it seems perfectly reasonable for Akami to end once the octuple-headed demon bites the dust. Instead, Akami carries on for another 20 hours. It turns out Orochi was unleashed by the absolute ruler of all evil beings, Yami. By the time you face this cosmic force many hours later, you'll probably have forgotten all about Orochi, not to mention the fact you thought he was the main villain. Number 3, Hades. In Hades, demigod Zagreus prepares to leave his father's underworld so he can reunite with his mother Persephone on the surface. Unsurprisingly, Zagreus' journey won't be easy since Hades' labyrinth is filled with more angels and demons than you could possibly imagine. If you make your way through Tartarus, Asphodel, Elysium and Styx, you'll reach the door leading to the exit. As you enter, you'll find Hades himself standing on the other side, halting your escape. After taking part in a reasonably tough battle, the god of the dead is seemingly defeated. Suddenly, Hades initiates phase 2 of the showdown, which is way harder. If you beat the mighty deity a second time, Zagreus heads to the human world where he'll find his mother. But moments after finding her, Zag realizes he can't survive in the real world since his essence is tied to his father's kingdom. He then drops dead, forcing his soul to return to Hades' infernal pit. Although it is possible to win the game, you need to defeat Hades 7 times. You then have to go through the whole rigmarole again as you're about to fight Hades for the 8th time. Upon this encounter, Hades accepts his son will never give up and so brings Persephone to his home, allowing Zagreus to be with his mother. Number 2, Kid Icarus Uprising. Speaking of Greek myth and legend, Kid Icarus Uprising opens with the goddess of darkness, Medusa, planning to wipe out humanity, compelling angelic warrior Pit to embark on a quest to stop her. After defeating her commanders, retrieving the 3 sacred treasures and locating the key to the underworld, Pit heads to Medusa's lair until he comes face to face with the snake-haired demoness. Now, you have every reason to believe that this is the last fight. The goddess of light, Palutena, literally tells Pit this is the final battle after all. Although you've only been playing for 3 hours, that's pretty long by Kid Icarus standards at this point. So when you defeat the gargantuan Gorgon in this sensational multi-phase battle, you're not surprised when the credits roll. Suddenly a clawed hand rips the credits away, revealing the real arch-villain, Hades. So not only is your adventure unfinished, you have a lot more to do. Only after Pit completes 16 more chapters, and you've only done 9 at this point, you can defeat Hades and win Kid Icarus Uprising for real. Number 1, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. When a game tricks us into celebrating prematurely, we recognise the error of our ways shortly after. However, that's not what happened with many players upon completing Castlevania Symphony of the Night. After defeating final boss Richter Belmont, you receive a pretty normal ending. But if you acquire certain items in Dracula's lair and release Richter from his mind control, you'll unlock the Inverted Castle, which serves as a second half of your playthrough. Of course, the game doesn't tell you this. When this Castlevania sequel was initially released, many players were certain they had beat Symphony of the Night once Richter croaked, oblivious that there was another castle to explore and a Prince of Darkness to defeat. Because there was no straightforward method to unlock the Inverted Castle, few players at the time learned of its existence, even if they had played Symphony of the Night to death. The first time gamers heard rumblings of a hidden castle, they probably thought it was a baseless rumour. Nowadays, we can learn of such secrets within seconds by looking online, but back in the 90s, this blew our minds to learn Symphony of the Night had a second half tucked away. And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below. Which of these games tricked you into celebrating too soon? And of course, let us know of any others that would fit with this theme. Make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Head over to WhatCulture.com for more content every day. You can follow me on Twitter at Syniac_123. I've been Cy for WhatCulture, and have a good week.